Good morning and welcome to your daily dose of discipleship. And this is brought to you by the Lordship Church here in Piedmont, Oklahoma. And I'm excited to have the opportunity to share with you. We've been talking about character, developing character, building that character that God has within us. And we've been studying a book called Louder Than Words by Andy Stanley. Fantastic book. I want to encourage you to get it. In this edition, we're going to talk about developing our character and how we see God and the perspective. You know, God doesn't always bring us or deliver us out of storms or turbulent times in life, difficulties and trials. Sometimes he just brings us through them, and when he does that, it's for a purpose to develop our character. But so much of the time, we look and evaluate and measure whether God's involved in our lives or answering prayers based upon what we see on the outside. And I want to challenge you with this morning. It's so crucial. We need to understand that God's more interested on what's going on inside you than what's going on outside you. His priority is preparing us for eternity, not just tomorrow. Now, he meets our needs and he takes care of us. That's true. But we've got to change our perspective, because a lot of times people say, well, I prayed, I asked God for this, I asked God for that, and he didn't answer me. Where is God? Well, I'll tell you where God is. He's on the inside. He's working in you to develop Christ-like character. And sometimes when he doesn't answer you the way you think he should, he is answering you. And so the challenge for us is to change our understanding of God's perspective and how he works in us. We sometimes, as I said, evaluate his presence and concern by how well he meets our expectations. In other words, how does he answer our prayers? We've mentioned earlier that character is kind of like oil to an engine. Character to relationships is like oil to an engine. When there's character, there's a compatibility. When there's a lack of character, there's conflict. And if you treat God just like Santa Claus in the sky, and that's all you do is ask him for things, that's not much of a relationship. God wants you to know that he is developing the inner man, the inner person. Sometimes we fanatically or frantically look for God in the outside, and we miss that fact that he's working on us in the inside, developing that dreaded word, patience, sometimes. Sometimes he wants us to learn to be persistent. Sometimes he wants us to learn to just trust in him. As long as your priority in life is anything other than the character of Christ, you will always be prone to look for God in your circumstances. Looking for God in your circumstances. When you do, listen carefully, you will miss him, misunderstand him, and doubt him. You and I know people who have done that. Maybe we too. I mean, obviously we have. Sometimes when we don't see God doing what we think he should be doing on the outside, we think he's abandoned us. Well, his word says he never will. Sometimes we misunderstand what he's saying. Sometimes we just are not on the same path that God wants to take us down. And that's developing characters, going through that and understanding, hey, God wants me to be going this direction. And so we change the way we look at things. Do not evaluate God's involvement in your life by what you see on the outside. Evaluate God's involvement in your life by what he's doing on the inside and get involved with it. Because that's where he's investing. That's where he's putting his effort into. Because this world, this life is temporary. What he's preparing us for is eternity. I want to challenge you with that God will bless you, that you see God from a different perspective. Not just whether he answers prayers, but what is he doing with me on the inside? How is he developing in me character that's Christ-like? Because that's what will endure. And that's where God's at. Don't miss God. He's on the inside. God bless.